Welcome to the Family Office, planning for the people who matter most.
Talking about rules and law and all of that, did you hear that that the judges are allowing cameras to be inside of the courtroom for the Tyler Robinson trial? And just in case folks out there don't remember who Tyler Robinson is, he's the person who is alleged to have assassinated Charlie Kirk. And so he's 23 years old, and this happened in September of 2025, and prosecutors are seeking the death penalty, which is crazy to me. So a preliminary hearing began in Provo, Utah, where prosecutors are trying to show enough evidence for the case to move towards trial. And now there's this big fight. There was a big fight about cameras being in the courtroom versus not being in the courtroom. And coincidentally, it was the defendant. So Tyler Robinson's side said, we're not the ones who want the cameras in here, which to me, yeah. So what are your thoughts about it, and how do you feel about the idea of cameras and the whole situation?
Why is it crazy that they're seeking the death penalty for you?
Okay, so
do you not think he's the guy who did it? I mean, I don't want to go down that whole theory and all, but why do you think it's crazy? Let's say he is. I don't without throwing in the theory and the ballyhoo or whatever of the fact that it was a setup and he really wasn't the killer. Let's say, for example, that he really is on trial because he really did do it. Because popular vote is, or popular story narrative is, that he's the shooter, right? And he's proven without a reasonable doubt he took another person's life. Why is the death penalty weird?
No. Okay, so I don't think the death penalty in and of itself is weird. I believe in any case, I think sentencing and conversations about sentencing should be done after.
I agree with you on that.
Right.
I think
so you let the evidence prove what it proves, and then deliberate about the length of the sentence. Because I think what ends up happening is when you determine what a sentence should be, then to me, I think by definition, that kind of taints the process.
Yeah. I understand why they don't want the cameras in the courtroom. This goes back to the same thing. Didn't they didn't want the cameras in the courtroom for OJ too, right? Didn't they do that?
I don't remember. Or was
OJ the first one where they did allow cameras in? I remember there was that controversy about the fact that they let the cameras into the courtroom.
Yeah, to me, I don't remember. I don't remember what happened, but I remember that was the most watched, probably even to this day, case in the history of America.
I think they should. I think they should allow the cameras in, and I think that they should allow them in until the judge feels it's prudent to put a gag order, and then at that point, the gag order turns the cameras off. And here's why: courts are public, right? So he's in the court of public opinion at this point. He did this. He's under the. There's
allegedly.
Allegedly. He allegedly did it. Thank you, Len. And there's evidence that strongly suggests he did it, and the prosecution claims that they have a case there. Cool. Now, that's, again, I'm saying this without getting into the whole aspect of the who done it, right? Who really done it, or the conspiracy behind it? Because I'm not fully convinced based on what I know.
Okay.
But I don't want to get into that. I want to assume that this is in pretend for a second. Just to argue the real point, and the real point, not to get sidetracked, Glenn, because you know that happens. And I think they should, because you and I can go stroll up and go to a court hearing anytime we want, right? And it'd be in the gallery, right? Isn't that what it's called? The gallery. And we can go watch this court, right? So yeah, I do. I don't think I think that there's an advantage of not having the cameras in there for the defense, because then you can't character assassinate or show all the nasty, ugly things. Because here's the thing. Whether you're guilty or not, if someone says you did something horrible or sleazy, the only thing, even if you're innocent, the only thing anyone's going to remember is that you were involved in something horrible or something sleazy. That's it.
Yeah.
So I think it's an advantage for the defense to keep the cameras out, but I think it's unfair, because if, for example, he was convicted and he was found guilty, I mean, I wouldn't go. I mean, look, if you're found guilty, yeah, people should know, because if you don't show, it's a sensitive thing, but I don't want to say what I really want to say, because I don't want to be labeled like that. But I do think that the camera should be allowed. Like, for example, I'll say it, Len. Like, for example, if you're convicted of treason, you should be tarred and feathered in public square. Everyone should see it. A treason, so you
think
turncoat.
The death penalty should be, like, you're okay with it being a public event?
If it's a violent crime, absolutely, 100%. So, for example, if John Smith goes down the street, the guy who stabbed that girl in the train, you know what I'm talking about? The Ukrainian girl, he should be tarred and feathered in public square. 100%. 100%. Because it'll send a message to everyone else out there that this is what happens when you do these kinds of atrocities in America, or anything for that part. Because if you don't, they'll just keep committing atrocities. Like, there's very few things where you should be tarred and feathered in public square. Treason is one of them. Treason, 100%, absolutely. There is no room for treason unless your government is treasonous to you. There's just no room for it. I'm sorry. There's just no room for it. There's just no room for it.
Okay,
you should be. And for someone who committed a violent crime like that, unprovoked, they should tar and feather them.
So what I would say is, it's so many. It's such a messy ball of circumstances. So the way I look at this specific trial is that I think there's enough evidence. Let me say this. Anytime there should be a camera is because there's a high level of controversy, and there has to be the opportunity for people to make decisions for themselves based on the evidence they see. And because this situation is so, I think, I could easily argue why he's guilty, and I could easily argue why he's innocent. And I think I can make a compelling argument for both. So even though at the end of the day, I think there will still be controversy around whatever ruling happens, because we're going to come to our own conclusions, and then we're going to find evidence to support our opinion, right?
Right.
And so because of that, because of the controversial nature of it and the divisive sentiments that it has created, because there's this sense that on the one hand that it's a conspiracy that started in Israel, and the Mossad is behind everything.
See, that doesn't do any good for anybody when you start. I mean, you should have CBS should be doing that work.
Right. I agree. And so, but then there's the other side, and that same side though is saying, well, it's the mainstream media that's not even taking the time to push the narrative and get the facts out. Because if you think about it, there are a lot of, why did this happen? Like, for example, I'm going to kind of go probably maybe where you didn't want to go, but
just do it. It's
Monday. To cover up, with the whole concrete over the crime scene so quickly, that's a bit weird, right? And
I didn't even know about that. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So what I've heard in the reporting is that where the assassination happened, they came and put concrete over that entire area. So
where Charlie Kirk was killed.
Yes. So footprints and all that stuff could be
weird.
That's weird.
That's weird.
I'm not trying to make any value judgment of it, but that's weird.
That's strange.
Right after he was killed, where they came and took the cameras down so quickly. That's weird to me. And so
it's weird
to not ask a bunch of questions, and the authorities got their person, and the whole idea, the type of weapon and what damage it did versus what that type of artillery should have done to somebody's neck.
Yep.
That's weird. Right. So there's enough controversy to suggest that we need to see the evidence. We need to hear both sides of the argument so we can make our own conclusion. And then you let the judges make their decision and the jury make their decision, and you got to live with it. But to me, there's two weird things on either side. This is why I'm really undecided, because I can see both sides based on just evaluating both sides of the evidence.
Yeah.
So I'll say so I've already kind of said why I think there's some questions about his innocence. Like, how did he get the gun on campus? How did he get off of the campus with it? Why weren't there any evidence of a gun on him? And then why would you write such weird text to your supposed lover where it just gives everything out on text, where people his age don't even write like that? There's enough weirdness to question it. And I think that's a legitimate argument that suggests that he's innocent. Now, on the flip side of it, well, where was he at the time? He did own that gun. There's enough evidence to suggest that he was definitely a part of it and what happened. And so because of what happened with JFK and the fact that it looked like a government cover up from the perspective of a lot of people, there was no real level of transparency that happened. And there were a lot of files that were redacted and considered classified and all of that stuff. This is an assassination. And so I think that there should be access for us to at least take a look at ourselves in the spirit of transparency.
It does seem weird. I mean, the shock of the whole situation, obviously coming up to almost a year, is very. It's very shocking. It's going to be very sad. It's going to be very sad, and it's not just because he was widely known, but he was a type of person that he wasn't doing it because he was going to gain notoriety or fame. He did it because he loved what he did. He did it because he loved America, the theory of America. I don't think anybody can. I don't think still to this day, I don't think I've seen anybody be able to debate as good as well as.
He's a phenomenal debater.
I mean, there's just no question. He would shred anybody. I mean, he could out debate Donald Trump, and that guy is very difficult to debate with.
Who would be an interesting debate, bro? Charlie Kirk and Mamdani, because I think they're both ridiculously intelligent, very well spoken. Like they both are very witty and quick on their feet. I would have paid money to see that.
I don't think a Mamdani gets elected if a Charlie Kirk is still alive, by the way. I don't think a Zohar Mamdani gets elected. I don't. I really don't. I really don't think he does. Isn't that crazy how the void space gets filled with the yin and yang? Right? Because it's just strange. And I'm not saying that, by the way, that I don't think Zohar Mamdani is anywhere, by the way, in the same league or level as a Charlie Kirk. I don't think he is. I mean, Zohar Mamdani is a communist politician. I mean, he hasn't built anything. He hasn't built anything though. He hasn't built enterprise value though.
Okay,
it's like what Kevin O'Leary said the other day. He was giving a talk to a bunch of people. He said, "Look, the majority of you are going to be consultants, and you'll be in and out of jobs every 2 years. I hate hiring consultants because consultants rarely ever have to make consequential decisions or decisions that have consequences or see the consequences of decisions, right? And that's the same exact thing with communists. Communists don't ever have to see the consequences of their decisions or live up to the level of their consequences because it's never their resources that they're spending or their efforts that they're spending. Charlie Kirk built a multi-million-dollar business, multi-million-dollar movement.
No, I agree.
Zohar Mamdani just hopped on the backs of an ideal that appeals to human nature, which is you're lazy, you don't want to work, and you want to get shit for free. And I know times are tough right now, and I'm your savior. And that's the reality. That's why he won. He won because of those merits. He didn't win because he has this amazing track record. Because if that was the case, Governor Newsom would have been unelected. Karen Bass would have been fired the first day.
Okay, but here's the thing where I have to push back. What you said is correct about Mamdani, and what you said is correct about Kirk. But I think that it's important not to over-index on just electing officials because they built something. So that would mean that every person who's elected into office would have had to have been an entrepreneur and run a business. And I don't think you don't need to have that.
No, I get that because I say that goes back to my further argument.
Here's the other point. Here's the other point though, is that Mamdani is filling a void that exists because here's the thing. If the United States and New York in particular had lower housing prices, lower cost of living, and a better way of life, there'd be no void for him to fill. And so it's also an indictment on the past politicians and the economy that has gotten to that place. So while I disagree with his tactics and I disagree with his messaging because socialism is an inherently bad system. Doesn't make him an inherently bad person. I'm not going to say that,
He's
but
not a socialist.
he's a socialist, but whatever. We can argue over those points in another conversation. But my point is that he's filling a void that exists. And because people left to their own devices, the majority of people are going to take the path of least resistance. That's why there's more employees than there are employers.
Right.
And the world has to be that way, because if everybody were an entrepreneur and everybody were a leader and everybody were an employer, this world would cease to exist. So there has to be people that rule and run things, and there has to be people that follow and are led. And so he's filling a void that exists, and he's no slouch. And so I think that he's a formidable opponent. And the reason why other people in the Democratic Socialist parties or DSA are gaining traction, because young people are feeling the pain of not being able to buy a house. They're feeling the pain of not being able to afford where they live and the prices of rents going up and not having a job that's going commensurate against that. Now, I would argue against the point I just made, which is, well, exercise your desire and live somewhere else and your freedom to move and move up the career ladder and all that stuff. I'm a definite proponent of that philosophy because I am a capitalist. However, I also understand that people who are younger, who have fewer options, could lean towards that because it sounds enticing, it sounds appealing. So we we collectively have to find ways, again, going back to our previous conversations about campaign finance reforms and career politicians, we need to get at that foundation. But feel free to respond to that. So with that being said, Chris, any parting words before we wrap up?
Have a killer week, everybody. Like, subscribe. If you like this, drop a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Len, see you on the next one, sir.
Always a pleasure.
Conversation has given you clarity on your next steps. Please share this episode with someone who's walking the same path. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, planning ahead isn't just prudent, it's an act of care. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Family Office.